Hello and welcome to the Crone Codes, a gathering place for women of all ages and all stages to remember your worth, your purpose, and your power. I'm your host, the creator and resident crone, Joan Advent. Welcome back to the Crone Codes. I am your host, the creator and resident crone, Joan Advent, and I am so honored and really delighted to share with you today my beautiful friend and wise sister, Laurie Seymour. Welcome, Laurie.
Thank you, Joan. We have a long history, even though it's been a long stretch of time too, of not being in each other's, immediate fields. And I'm really thrilled to be doing this with you. It feels like a great opportunity for a deep conversation.
Absolutely. And you have a new book that's just come out, and I'm really honored and excited to unpack some of the pieces of that with you. So it feels like a really auspicious time to have you here.
Great.
And I do also want to mention, dear listener, that my sweet dog Molly is here on my lap, and so she may make herself more known during the course of our interview. She may need to be moved in the course of our interview.
Or we can just feel her unconditional love.
Yes, yes. Well, as long as it as long as we can still hear each other, yeah.
Right.
I'm,
Okay. Deal.
I'm all for that. So I'm going to begin as I like to do, which is really to offer Laurie's biography and accomplishments as a meditation, both for Laurie and for you, the listener. Because I really believe that when we do this, when we receive the truth of someone and who they are and what they have created in their lives, it gives us the opportunity to reflect not only on the Crone codes or the codes that that person carries, but it can remind us of what we both carry within ourselves and what we aspire to. So I want to invite you, Laurie, and our listeners, if it's safe, for you to close your eyes and to receive the wonder and the beauty of Laurie Seymour. Laurie is the host of Wisdom Talk Radio, international executive mentor and certified master trainer. She is an MA and is the founder and the CEO of the Baca Institute. And she is the newly minted author of Unconditional Remembrance, Your Connection to Source. Over 25 years ago, Laurie was honored to receive the stewardship of a special energetic technology, Tereya Touch and Tereya Meditation, that activates your connection with Source, raising your vibration and amplifying your ability to create from the infinite field of potential. Laurie is also the creator of the quantum connection process, helping each person she works with to build a program, a business, and a life that expresses your divine blueprint and gives you the financial flow you deserve with the time, health, and well being to enjoy it. And she has a quiz called the Quantum Connection Quiz, which you can take for free. And I will be sharing that in the show notes. So these are some of the dimensions of Laurie, and I want to welcome you again.
What an experience to have it read from the place of being able to really receive it.
Mm,
Yeah, thank you.
you're welcome. That is, it's important to me, both for you as my guest, but I think for all of us as human beings, for us to have those experiences of reflection and remembrance, as you say.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes.
And I know before we got on the recording that we were talking about the importance of codes and energetic coding, and even for you to maybe articulate some of the codes you're aware of just from hearing that for yourself, and how that, just how that whole concept, how it's been meaningful for you, how our listeners can perhaps consider that for themselves.
Mm. I may speak about it differently than you do,
Yes.
which is great because we're just adding to the mix and to the pot, so to speak. Um, because everything truly is energy. Everything in life, everything that is alive has an energetic imprint to it and an energetic coding. And as we evolve, as we go through life, we're impacted so much by by our environment, not just our physical or our home environment or our work environment, but also mm, the cosmic radiation, the sun and what that gives off, it, and what's happening in the entire world. Because we know that we're part of a universal field. We know that we're part of this quantum field. And given that, we hold within us the kind of hologram of the whole. And it's so wonderful because now, with all the research into quantum physics, they have demonstrated that, oh, what happens on the other side of the world does indeed impact us. So that is a kind of foundational statement, if you will. Um, I work with energy in everything I do. In the Turea meditation sessions that I run, in the Turea touch that I both teach and offer, in the individual work, in the classes I do, really in everything. And I think of it in this way, that everything gets encoded with the frequencies
Mm,
that are needed in that moment.
mm,
So whenever I do the Turea meditation twice a week online, and before I begin, I'm always asking about what's needed that day, what's needed in that moment. And since I'm working with higher consciousness energy symbols, I'm aware that I don't have to direct those or do anything that's personal will related, but to allow the new frequencies, because it feels like it's always brand new, to come through those symbols, to come through my words. And
mm,
as we're impacted by what we hear and what we receive, that is an encoding. That is a way that we're being impacted by those codes so that we can raise our own frequency,
mm.
so that we can move to a new dimension within ourselves that we are always doing anyway. But someone this morning said the difference between, let's see if I can remember exactly what he said, letting life run you or engaging with life.
Mm.
These are different words, but that was the sense of it. Engaging with life and us being the dancing partner, and that
Yes.
it's not a leading or a following, but a flow.
Yes. Yes. There's a lot I could say about that, but I recently have been exploring that exact, we'll say, energetic way of holding myself in relationship to life is to both meet it with full presence, not be overpowered by it, but
Mhm.
also not be like the bull in the china shop.
Yeah, yeah,
So that particular point of finding that right balance.
yeah. And it's not a balance that's ever static. That's the incredible thing about it is that we're always being moved to, okay, shift here, shift there, so that we're not a victim, which is like life doing to us. And we're not the, as you just said, the bull in the china shop, trying to, well, to try and control things, to say, oh, well, I want it my way. Because
Yeah.
that's what we're seeing so much of these days. It doesn't work.
Well, it doesn't work. It doesn't work, but it's also to the extent that, as you said, to the extent that we are being impacted and impacting others,
Mhm.
it's like pulling everyone in some ways, I guess, along with us.
Yes, yes, hmm, yes.
So I know a little bit of your story, and I don't know how much we are meant to dive into our story, but you didn't always know about these things,
Mm.
right? These energies and coding. And I know that you
Mm.
and I share the history of both having been trained as psychotherapists.
Mm.
And so how does one become, we'll say so, energy literate or energetically?
You know what I think is funny as I reflect on my life now, and especially my early life, and
Mhm,
and also seeing my daughter because there's some real similarities.
mhm,
It's that when I was little, I think I both knew things that I had no reason to know from this life.
mhm, mhm.
And I came in with that, but there was so little support for that, so little recognition or understanding, or in fact, quite the opposite of a, don't get too big for your britches and, better settle down, kid. And all kinds of messages like that, that set up in me that kind of, I didn't know what was going on. I really
Mm.
didn't. And I just thought without going into all of that, that did very much take me into the search for what was true. What was true? What was real? How could I understand myself? How could I understand other people? And, becoming a psychotherapist became well, of course, I never had oh, I want to be something else. Well, I wanted to be an archaeologist. I wanted to be a librarian, but really, truly, I was going to be a psychotherapist one way or another.
Yes. Solving those mysteries.
And the mystery of self, first of all.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. I know one of the things that you mention in your book, which I loved, and I'm going to get the paraphrasing wrong, but it's something to the effect of you can't really be trained as a psychotherapist and not believe that something is, was it broken or missing or
Hmm.
flawed in some way or hurting. And
Yeah.
I know that there's a lot of emphasis in the world on healing, and certainly
Mhm.
in many spiritual communities on healing and our growth work. And as someone who has been a longtime psychotherapist,
Mhm.
my guess is you've seen people who can also kind of keep going with that and going with that and going with that. But it sounds like you are suggesting, and your book is suggesting that there is a different way. There's an easier way. There's a simpler
Yeah.
way.
And it's yes, and because what I really became aware of is that we can spend our whole lives believing that we need to be healed. And of course, and this is the party line, truly, you're never done healing. You're never done. There's always more. And that casts a different light, or it's seeing life and seeing oneself through a lens that I don't feel is particularly helpful or healthful.
Mhm.
Now I'll just briefly contrast that with what people talk about, um, spiritually overriding
Mhm.
your stuff, your shadow, your whatever. I'm not talking about that either. So this isn't about going into bliss and everything's just fine and everything happens that's supposed to happen. And that feels almost even more exhausting to
Right.
think of life like that.
Right. Well, it is suppressing in my experience.
Yeah, it doesn't feel true. It doesn't have the ring or the experience of truth.
Right.
But if we go beyond all of that and go beyond the either or, we I've been able to recognize through some very specific experiences in my own life that the more that we allow ourselves to um, get curious about ourselves, look at what's unfolding, look at what we're wanting to create, and tap into that creative source, that creative life force within us. Then what we're doing is we're focusing our attention on the creative expression. And yeah, the stuff comes up, the doubt, the fear, the old situations, but we're not going digging for them. So
Mhm.
instead of trying to just unearth everything and keep focusing on, well, we got to go deeper, we got to go deeper, we got to go deeper, allowing the depth of what is there to arise when it does, and to address it from that place of such love for ourselves,
Mhm.
and a recognition of the moreness that is there along with that, the moreness of who we are, the fullness of who we are, and even what that was about, whatever the thing is, if there was a thing.
Right. Yes, if there's a painful dynamic or a
Hmm.
painful loop of belief or what have you that keeps running. Uh,
Yeah, to see them as patterns,
yes.
not as truth.
Yes, exactly. And what you shared earlier about the aspects of your, we'll say, innate gifts that you were born with, and the way I think, certainly in our culture and most Western culture, we are taught to pay less attention to that and more attention to what helps us stay in the fold, so to speak, whatever that fold may be, whether it's in the family, in
Hmm.
the culture, in the church, in the school system, any divergent gifts or what have you. It's like, put that over there.
Don't get too wild. Mm, yeah.
Right, but I can see how it does make it hard for us to remember the truth of who we are when we're having to check those things at the door.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it it just gives us such a partialized view, and it's such a skewed.
And we're always looking outside of ourselves, and so we never get to really um, take the inner journey and really explore what's possible. We're always trying to fit in, or if we're beyond fitting in, then we're pushing aside the things that might rock the boat,
Right.
that might, mean we have to want to live somewhere else, or we want to do something different. And oh my goodness, how am I going to pay my mortgage if I do something different, or leave my marriage, or. But it doesn't necessarily mean that. And we get so afraid of looking at what is true that we lose out on those gifts. We lose out on what our potential is.
Mm. And I'm struck by, because I would say a significant segment of my listeners are women who would be around my age, your age, and maybe a bit younger, who are still at a point where they haven't felt full permission
Yeah.
to be the fullness
Hmm.
of who they are.
And the cost of that gets higher and higher and higher. It doesn't get easier. It doesn't diminish.
Mm.
The cost, the cost is not only personal. And this is what I'm moved to say right now. It's also impactful for our families, for our communities, for
Mhm.
our world, because you do come in with a particularly unique you and a set of codes and a set of capacities. And if that doesn't have space to unfold, if that doesn't have space to be brought into the world, that symphony that's being created in the world is missing a note and
Mm.
another note here and another note there. And it starts sounding discordant. And that's what we're witnessing right now is the discordance that is taking over. Now, it isn't. It looks that way. But the
Yes.
more we can bring our own fullness out into the world, we are contributing to the world in a major, major, major way.
Yes. And is it true that even you committing to writing your book and bringing it out, like that is an example of being willing to do the thing.
Yeah, I guess it is. And here's something that I just discovered today. So because this is a 9 year, at least when we're recording this in December, this is a 9 year. We're going to move into a 1 year, and then the way that these cycles work is in cycles of nine, and then the nine is the completion year. And this, I just went back earlier today to look at when did I start my book? Because I knew I had started it. I had done this big push, and then I set it aside for a long time. And it was right as this cycle began.
Wow.
And I didn't realize it had been that long, but it had.
Mm.
So here we are in this completion time, and I feel so much completing in me,
Mm.
having completed in me, and like I'm absolutely being prepared for what's to come. And I I imagine that there are some of your listeners that are feeling that, whether they're tuning into the 9 year cycle or not. But just because this feels like such a big time of preparation, of looking back to realize what has actually been completed, and to opening some of those parts of us that we haven't let have expression.
Mm. Yes. Which can be so, I have found, and the creation of this podcast is in part an aspect of that for me.
Hmm.
And it can be so both liberating and, of course, feel edgy at times, but
All of it feels edgy.
that's true. That's true if we're being honest.
If we're being honest, it does feel edgy and it is edgy. But would we, well, I'll say it to myself, but would we want anything else? I mean, comfort is highly overrated.
You're right. You're right. It is. Sometimes it's helpful to have a moment to catch your breath.
Absolutely. I'm not saying that we don't need the time out and the rest and yeah, absolutely. Because we do. We need to nourish ourselves and feel nourished before we go out on the edge again.
Yes, and to put in like to have the roots or the tap roots so that we can grow big and tall or big and
Yes.
strong and
Yes. Yes.
yes,
Yeah. It's not about just taking off and, flying into the cosmos at all. We need that
yes,
taproot, as you say.
yes. So tell us about unconditional remembrance and I have some clues to what that is, but to someone who's just tuning in, what does it mean?
That was for me, I'll just say to begin with, a bold title, a bold statement.
Hmm.
Um, it's like, no, 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 I can't put it out that strongly. That really was my first response to it. And then I realized, but yet that is what I am talking about. That when we truly start to look at our lives from this perspective of, through this lens of potential and possibility, and recognizing that when we came into life, I think, and this is by, I think by design, we forget. We forget where we came from. We forget that connection with source. We forget that we come from love and that we are love. And then we go through life, and the process of living is one, sometimes it's one of, burying the remembrance even further and further and further under. But ultimately, it's that process of remembering, remembering. And what I mean by that, remembering our connection with source, that is our original blessing.
Mm.
And there's nothing that we can do that will remove that. However, we have free choice, free will about remembering it and living with that remembrance. So that's really what I mean by remembrance is remembering and then living from that remembrance. As I remember in more and more moments in my everyday life, that connection, really everything gets changed. Everything is different because I'm carrying a different set of frequencies. I'm tuning into frequencies that are always, new and moving me into what's next. And that experience of being loved, of I'm okay. I am it's all okay. It's all okay. Yeah, I've had all these different experiences that didn't feel okay as they were happening, of course.
Yes.
But now I get to take a different view and a different experience of them. When I get curious, when I start to see that forgetting and remembering, oh, so I came in with having to go through that. I came in with having to learn about that. And it's not because I had to suffer, it's because how was I going to come to be the teacher that I am now without having gone through that? I I, at 22, I was starting to run groups and I was obnoxious, because, because I knew some things,
Mm.
but I didn't have the life experience that was letting me connect all of those pieces up in my own body.
Yes. Yes. Mm. So there's a couple of pieces. One that I just want to name, which to me felt so touching, was your willingness to go for the bold statement.
Mm,
And it reminds me of the poet David White, who I've heard speak many times, but he was speaking about when a woman says, I know the truth. Like when a man says, I know the truth,
mhm,
like that's kind of, it just, they can say that without, they frequently say that, we'll say,
mhm.
without much
I know what's right.
depth or consideration. But
Yeah.
when a woman says, I know truth or I know the truth, she's been like to hell and back and around the world to really
Yeah.
explore it and feel it out and
Yeah.
say, this kernel is true.
Hmm.
And so that really struck me and was so moving because, of course, part of what the Crone Codes and the Crone essence is about is a willingness to do that and having lived enough to to do that, to have enough lived experience coupled with your own innate wisdom to
Hmm.
stand in that, and not from the ego standpoint, but from being a transmission of wisdom and truth. So I
Mm.
just want to honor and acknowledge that and celebrate that.
Hmm. I love those words, how you describe it. And partly it's also it's having the embodied experience of that and not just the information. And the information, it only takes us so far. I mean, it was one of the things that was really important to me in the writing of this book, that the codes, in the way that I think of them, this book is really embedded with those codes and embedded with those frequencies. And when we experience something energetically, then we get to decode it in our own life. Like, what does that mean? How can I live it? What do I need to know about it? We get to have all of those kind of curiosity moments, curiosity questions, but the experience of it is there in the body.
Yes. And your book, I will attest to your book is it does carry that resonance. It does. Reading it does transport the reader.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just an exchange of cognitive ideas,
Mm-hmm.
and it does speak to the power of language to hold codes,
Mm-hmm.
as you say, which whether it's the spoken word or the written word,
Mm-hmm.
it's very clear that what you're bringing through your book.
That
It is,
delights me to hear, Joan. It really does. Yeah, thank you.
I'm so glad. You're welcome. The book is like it's like a doorway.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just, again, cognitive ideas. It is
Mm-hmm.
like a doorway to that remembrance.
Because that's what I believe we all are wanting
Mhm.
and we all have the capacity for. Some people in their personal will, because it's just so strong, they won't ever go for it.
Right.
And that's okay. I mean, I've had to surrender to that in sometimes the people that are closest to me who it's like, nope, nope, nope. And dig in heels, and this is how it is. And sometimes my heart aches, but then I just have to surrender to that too. And it's like, no, I can't control any of that, and nor do I want to. I don't want to take on their karma.
No, and how long have we spent so long trying to make it better for others or lighten their load?
Right. And especially, dare I say, as mothers,
Oh,
that's a huge learning. And I can't say it's a lesson that I've learned, but I get to see it. I get to see it, and it's like, oh, oh, there that is again. But then I can be gentle with myself and just recognize and say, oops, for a moment, I forgot who I am.
yes, yes. Oh, thank you for that. Yes, because we have these roles that we play in this
Hmm.
life, whether it's mother or wife or even daughter,
Mm-hmm. Best
uh,
friend.
right, best friend or colleague or whatever the case may be.
Hmm.
And it can be easy to get caught up in the belief that that's who we are
Right.
and all the scripts that go with those roles. And
Exactly. And then we set up these expectations of ourselves that this is how we're supposed to be. Oh, I got it. I got it. I got who I am. Well, I can never just get who I am because as soon as I do, as soon as I have that feeling, what happens is I move right into the next level. And then I'm there in the unknown, and all I want to do is cry because I feel myself in the void. And it really is a void. I don't have the markers aren't familiar anymore. And so I've actually traversed, I've gone through the doorway and I'm in new territory. And as I look around, it's like, whoa, sometimes the one way, well, and one of the ways that I know that that's what's happening is that feeling of all I want to do is just cry
Mm,
because it's not, I'm not sad and I'm not really empty, but
mhm.
I feel myself in the void. And so it's just the way it expresses in me. And yeah, when we finish something, when we've gone through something, there needs to be that time of
Mm.
fertile emptiness, really.
Yes.
And
Right. Yes,
mhm,
and here in the northern hemisphere, we're heading into the winter, which is
exactly.
that, yeah, that latent,
Hmm.
fertile darkness, that time, which this will be coming out just after the new year. So we will have
Ooh,
just passed through
wonderful.
the
The
solstice,
solstice is, yeah.
but we're recording it on this end of it. So
But
we're
it's all part of it. And the wonderful thing coming into this one year, we were talking about this before we started
Mhm.
this recording, is that it's a very, very potent time. And it's a useful time as you're listening to this today, whenever this is,
Mhm.
consider what the seeds are that you're wishing to plant in this new 9 year cycle.
Mm,
You know, what is it that you most want to do in your life? What's
mm,
the kind of wild and crazy thing that is there as a kind of little idea, but you daren't quite do? What if you were to step into that and experiment? It's the perfect time to start to bring that into being.
mm. Yes, I love that welcoming. It's actually reminding me of when I was 39 and I was feeling the urge for motherhood where previously it hadn't been quite like that. And
Mhm.
it was that thing. And interestingly, I had because being self-employed as a psychotherapist, I didn't have traditional insurance. I
Right.
had maternity insurance like for eons and had
Hmm.
let it
Hmm.
go. And then all of a sudden it was like motherhood is calling me, and that was the thing. And now of course my daughter is 21. Um, but just the dimensions that opened within me, and certainly in my whole life, the trajectory of life and how it changes when we
Yeah.
are willing to say yes and step
Hmm.
onto that edge.
Yes. And I love that, it is a saying yes, because we don't have to,
No.
and sometimes we are, I don't know if people will recognize or find a familiarity to this. There are ideas that come to you and you say, oh, whoa, that's too big. Sometimes there's ideas that come to me that I start questioning, not in the doubtful way, but in the, is this the right timing? Sometimes they're ideas not for now, and they're ideas for, kind of down the road. And sometimes they're not even ideas for me. They're ideas for someone else because mm, people do tap into those things, and people have probably also had the experience where you've had this brilliant idea for something and you don't act on it, and suddenly someone on the other side of the world just wait a minute, they took my idea. And I've
Yes.
come to understand that in researching innovation and creativity, that ideas are floating out there. And if they come to you, they're coming to you for a reason.
Mm.
And if you don't act on it, they're not only coming to you, and someone else is going to, take it and run with it.
Right. It's like something that's wanting to be born into this world, and they're going to
Exactly.
find the willing parent or vehicle or steward.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so action is really needed. We cannot just be passive in this.
Yes.
I think about You and I both, I think, use the word receiving and the importance of being in that state of receiving, but that's not a passive state.
No. In fact, I just did an episode about, in part, I was sharing what they've learned about conception and how the egg actually chooses and brings in the sperm, that
Wow.
it's not that it's overtaken or
Oh,
that it
oh.
that it just receives, but it is this active process.
Yeah, yeah.
Mind
So
blowing.
I talk about Turiya meditation as an active form of meditation. And I've had people just go, what are you talking about? Or what does that mean? Or because people like to think of meditation as we're just being in the quiet. And yes, we are. We
Mhm.
are being in the quiet. That is an essential part of meditation. And if you're in an active state of receiving, you get to receive what the energies are bringing to you and
Mm.
engage with them and relate with them. See what's next. Ask the questions then once you've received that. Be be the guardian of that light. The,
Yes.
the active guardian. How is this wanting to be made manifest?
Yes, which is, my sense is that there is a certain degree of maturity required for
Mm,
that. Like it's not just a passive consumer or recipient, that
right.
there is that capacity to, again, whether it's to say yes or to cultivate within us what needs to be cultivated in order to
Mhm.
bring it through.
It's also not, and I feel moved to bring this contrast in. It's
Mhm,
it's
mhm,
not a push, push, push.
mhm,
Because that's, it's like our ego likes to push and our ego likes to, think we're in charge and control and have the expectations of how it's going to go. So part of being that willing dance partner with life and being a willing dance partner with the idea
mhm,
is saying, what's new today?
mm,
How is it wanting to be expressed today? What am I needing to bring in today? And to have that openness to experience and that openness to explore, not just in the beginning with the idea, but all the way through to the creation, the manifestation. Because otherwise, we're just pushing.
right, right. And then the birthing and the letting go.
Mm, birthing is definitely an active process, right? There's nothing passive about it.
No, although I could go off on a tangent, I'm going to choose not to do so. So we just have a few more minutes before we wrap this up. And I feel compelled just to ask for a truth about love. Just whatever
Mm-hmm.
comes to
Okay,
you.
I'm gonna see. It is that truth is a frequency, it's a vibration, it is not an emotion. And we get caught in the expectation or the thinking that love is an emotion. And then
Mm,
when it's not there, that we're somehow bereft of being capable of love or worthy of being loved. But in
mm,
fact, it is a frequency, and that when we are able to embrace it and hold it, and receive it and allow it to move in us, then we don't ever step into doubt because the doubt comes when we forget. And then as soon as we remember that, oh, this feeling of love is the truth.
mm, mm. Yes, so I have the vision of, for me, I have often used the words like the river of love, like stepping into the river of love and having that physical sensation of being in a river where you can either be like on the edge with the toe in, or you can be in the river, and feel it really moving through. So that comes back to me when I hear your words.
Yeah. And that no matter, even if we're just sticking our toe in, the truth is that we're
Yeah.
really right in the center of it. And it's just, our personal will that's saying, well, no, I'm just going to stick my toe in.
That we're always in that
Exactly.
state of connection, whether we're consciously aware of it
Yeah,
or open to it or not. Yes.
right. That is what I mean. Yeah.
So tell our listeners how they can find you. I, of course, will put things in the show
Mm,
notes, but tell them what you would like to share.
sure. I am on all the different social medias. I'm not on TikTok, but I am pretty much everywhere else.
Mhm.
And on my website is thebacainstitute.com. That's BACA. And you can find all my blog posts. You can find the quantum connection quiz that you mentioned, and that's allowing you to see what your quantum connection archetype is. And that's going to give you a whole lot of information about your superpower, your learning edge. So I think it's a pretty worthwhile step in one's own thing. Um, there's Turea meditation that I do twice a week, and you can find out about that, about Turea
Mm,
touch classes.
mm,
This year I'll be going to Hawaii, not to Hawaii, to Australia, a lot farther, to teach, and um, and of course, unconditional remembrance, your connection to source.
right here. There it is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Beautiful. So I want to thank you, Lori. I feel like we have just touched the tip, the very tip, and would love to have you back another time. But I want to thank you for just your presence, for your yes to
Mhm.
being here, but also to writing the book.
Thank you, Joan. I so appreciate how you are in this time and in this way, and I just feel the such a beautiful flow, and I love it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure. And we want to thank you, dear listener, for being here with us. And I like to remind my listeners, which I think you'll appreciate, that whether they are making ripples in their life, whether you're making ripples or making big waves in your life, that you are love and you are loved. Thank you for joining us today on the Crone Codes podcast. If you appreciated what was shared, please rate, review, subscribe, and comment wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to go deeper into the Crone Codes with curated bonus content created just for you, join our Crone Codes members community on Substack and receive prompts, tools, and resources for your wise woman journey.